Bryan Jennings, the Marine, the child, and the 46-year wait for justice. Welcome back to the Justice and Injustice channel, where we uncover the most disturbing secrets of true crime cases. Look around your room, at your window. Now, imagine you're 6 years old, sleeping soundly in your bed in Merritt Island, Florida. The date is May 11th, 1979. It's the early morning, and your window is open, unlocked, letting in the cool night air. What you don't know is that the darkness outside isn't empty. There's a predator watching. A 20-year-old U.S. Marine on leave, home from Okinawa, who drove by your house earlier just to scout. And now he's back. Tonight, we unearth the truly horrifying case of Bryan Frederick Jennings and his victim, 6-year-old Rebecca Kunash. The crime was calculated, the murder brutal, and the wait for justice has stretched across 46 agonizing years. A wait that is finally coming to an end. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. The kidnapping, a bedroom invasion. The life of Bryan Frederick Jennings, a high school dropout and a self-proclaimed mad dog, was on pause, waiting for his next set of military orders. But on the night of May 10th, 1979, after a night of drinking, he decided to write his own dark orders. He drives back to 1555 Riviera Drive. He sees Rebecca Kunash, a 4-foot-tall, 45-pound child, asleep in her room. The nightlight is glowing, acting as a horrifying beacon. He forcibly removes the screen, opens the window, and climbs in. He places a hand over the little girl's mouth, silencing her cry for help before it can even begin. He takes her out of the house and drives her to a secluded area near the Girard Street Canal. Kidnapping from a child's sanctuary was successful. The nightmare was just beginning. The murder, cold, calculated, and brutal. What happened next reads like a true vision of evil, and it's what led the trial judge to declare this crime as committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. Jennings sexually assaulted Rebecca Kunash. Then, in a moment of pure, savage brutality, he slammed her head onto the ground, fracturing her tiny skull. But even that wasn't the end. The 6-year-old was still alive when Jennings carried her into the canal water. The final act was a deliberate, drawn-out horror. He held her head under the water until she drowned. Her body was later found floating. The chilling autopsy confirmed the assault, the fractured skull, and asphyxiation by drowning. A child's life, extinguished by the ultimate betrayal of trust. The investigation and the confessions. The crime scene and the suspect. The alarm was raised when Rebecca's parents, Robert and Patricia Kunash, awoke to an empty bedroom. The open window, the screen on the lawn, a perfect, terrifying signature of an abduction. Police immediately found latent palm and fingerprints on the windowsill, and a plaster cast of a footprint outside. The investigation led them to a man seen sitting on a bridge nearby around midnight, wearing a red shirt. In a small coincidence that unraveled a nightmare, a deputy later spotted Bryan Jennings and a friend pushing a broken motorcycle, one of them wearing a red shirt. Jennings was a possible suspect, and a quick records check revealed an outstanding arrest warrant from another county. He was arrested and taken into custody. Inmate testimony and the disposal of evidence. Jennings' attempt to suppress his initial confession was successful in one appeal, but the evidence against him was devastating, particularly the testimony of multiple fellow inmates. He couldn't keep his own horrific story silent. Inmate Alan Kruger, before his death, testified that Jennings bragged about the murder, saying he picked the girl up over his head and threw her down on the pavement and held her head under water for 10 minutes. Another inmate, Clarence Mashinsky, detailed Jennings' chilling account, how he bashed her head on the pavement, raped her, and then held her under water, leaving her body to be disposed of by the sharks and the turtles and the fish and the animals of the sea. The physical evidence was a final, damning nail in the coffin. Jennings' wet shoes with a distinctive sole pattern that matched the footprint cast, and his palm prints and fingerprints that matched those found on Rebecca's windowsill. His own hand-drawn maps of the area were even entered into evidence. The combination of cold, hard evidence and his vile boasts left no doubt. The endless appeals, 3 trials, 3 death sentences. The legal labyrinth of a serial killer. This is where the frustration of the judicial system truly sets in. Jennings was found guilty and sentenced to death not once, not twice, but 3 different times over the course of 7 years. 1980, first conviction and death sentence. This was overturned because the defense should have been allowed to cross-examine a key inmate witness. 1982, second conviction and death sentence. This was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled Jennings should have had a lawyer present during his initial police questioning. This meant his initial, incriminating statements were suppressed for the 3rd trial. 1986, third conviction and death sentence. It didn't matter that the initial confession was out. The overwhelming physical evidence and inmate testimonies sealed his fate once again. The jury voted 11-1 for death. Assistant State Attorney Christopher White, who prosecuted Jennings, voiced the agonizing reality. It's a huge frustration. He has been convicted 3 times and sentenced to death 3 times. We should feel pretty confident we have the right guy. Mitigation and mental state. During the penalty phases, Jennings' defense tried to argue for mitigation based on his mental state. Psychiatrists and psychologists described him as having a mixed character and behavior disorder with passive-aggressive and antisocial personality traits. They argued that his personality disorders, combined with alcohol consumption, impaired his ability to follow the law. However, state-appointed experts rebutted these claims. They diagnosed an antisocial personality disorder, a sociopath, but confirmed he was legally sane, of above-average intelligence, and had the ability to conform his conduct. They believed the crime was not a drunken impulse, but a deliberate act of finding the judge agreed with when he signed the death sentence, citing the cold, calculated, and premeditated manner of the murder. The record-setting execution schedule. 46 years and counting. For the Kunash family, the fight for finality has been a half-century tragedy. Rebecca's neighbor, Shannon Parks, captured the collective anguish. "I'm bothered that it's taken so long. I'm bothered that the girl's father died before seeing Jennings executed." Robert Kunash, Rebecca's father, died in 2001 at the age of 52. He passed away before seeing the man who destroyed his life face the final consequence. Jennings has filed 12 appeals since his 3rd conviction, all denied. But the judicial process is a grinding machine, slow and meticulous, often frustrating the desire for final justice. The Florida execution spree. Now, decades later, the wheels of Florida's justice system are turning with terrifying efficiency. Governor Ron DeSantis has signed the death warrant for Bryan Frederick Jennings, scheduling his execution for November 13th. If this execution is carried out, Jennings will be the 16th inmate put to death by lethal injection in Florida this year. This is a chilling statistic. In just 1 year, Florida is setting a pace for capital punishment not seen in decades. Jennings' execution will follow. Samuel Smithers on Tuesday, and Norman Grimm on October 28th, a grim and relentless march toward finality. Final reckoning. Conclusion and the weight of the warrant. The U.S. Marine who called himself a mad dog, the man who meticulously planned the abduction of a 6-year-old from her bed and ended her life with such unspeakable brutality, is now 66 years old. He has spent more than 2/3 of his life on death row, aging alongside the horror he inflicted. The brutal, unrelenting ferocity of his attack is a phrase that will forever be a part of his case. The case of Bryan Frederick Jennings is more than just a crime. It's a time capsule of a tragedy that ripped apart a family and shocked a community. It represents the decades-long, relentless pursuit of justice for Rebecca Kunash. It's a testament to the fact that even when the evidence is undeniable, the confessions are numerous, and the guilt is confirmed 3 times over. The road to finality is a brutal, exhausting marathon. But now, the final clock is ticking. The death warrant is signed. On November 13th, the state of Florida intends to close the book on a case that should haunt all of us, a terrifying reminder of what can crawl through an open window in the dead of night. We'll continue to follow this relentless march toward justice. Don't go anywhere.